What? Okay, real estate law, fraud and misrepresentation. This will be really quick. Okay, what do you know about fraud and misrepresentation? Bad. Okay, so
Illegal.
when you get, okay, what's the difference between unethical and illegal?
One is morally, yeah, and one is.
Okay, when you do something unethical, do you go to jail? So that's the primary
It's a lot more
difference.
subjective.
It is a lot more subjective because laws are typically black and white.
Yeah.
But you do not go to jail if you did something immoral. If it's illegal, you'll go to jail. So that's the primary difference. So fraud and misrepresentation. Cincinnati is a small community. You get tied into any fraud misrepresentation. You want to stay in this field, you will probably not end up working in this field if you're tied with any of this fraud or misrepresentation. Small community. People will know who you are. Fraud. It's a deceptive act or statement deliberately made by one person in an attempt to gain an unfair advantage. You can do it intentionally, with the intention to deceive. You do it through misstatement of a past or present material fact. So we can do it by puffing. It's also known as dealer's talk. It's used as statements made to induce a purchaser to buy. Puffing is not actionable as fraud, even when false, because courts treat them as expressions of opinions. Realtors, my husband calls me a real whore. And he used to tease me about my plaid suit. I was like a used car salesman. He wouldn't talk to me when I wore it. He has all kinds of jokes about the things that realtors do and how realtors behave, and that's because he's seen one of the videos we saw before, somebody that's puffing and what a realtor does and how they want to exaggerate and do anything to make a sale. It's not the right way to carry on. But puffing, they're not going to find you wrong for doing it, but again, you'll get a reputation for not doing it right. And your customers will know you're not being genuine. An opinion, generally the law does not protect the naive buyer who relies on the seller's opinion, but opinions expressed by a person who enjoys a relationship of trust and confidence, has a superior knowledge. They're an expert hired to give advice, a person who actually does not have his opinions or actionable. In real estate, we try not to give opinions. You're going to pinch yourself and you're going to bite your tongue and you're not going to give those opinions. But you're going to tell people, I have resources where you can go to find out whether this is true or not. Here's resources. Don't give the opinion, but here's resources. So that you're going to learn how to say that. I don't understand what you're talking about, but I can give you resources. I don't really understand that, but I'll give you resources. Is there a sexual predator that lives next door? I don't know. Check resources. Go to the data bank. Check. Is this the best school district? We all assume we have the best school district, but I'll give you records where you can check state of Ohio and see. I'll give you the police department that you can call and see if this is a good crime-free neighborhood. They'll tell you the data, not me, not the realtor. So we have law and we have the silence. Silence, letting something happen without stepping forward and saying it's a problem, is the same thing as fraud. So, there's a material problem with the house. Your sellers haven't disclosed it on paperwork. The inspector might have said something that clues you in that there's a problem. And you simply don't say anything, but you knew there might be that problem. That's where you're going to get in trouble. Action for fraud and remedies. Somebody has to rely on it to be successful in action for the fraud. They have to act in reliance with false information, and the reliance has to be justified. So when you're doing this thing that's wrong, you're saying this thing that's wrong, and you're saying, well, I won't get busted because they had to rely on this, and they had to go to this, they had to be harmed, and they have to take me to a court of law. They have to go through this whole process to prove it. Why even go there? Don't even start down that road. Stay on the high road. Don't go there. Material misrepresentation has to be material. Hey, if you know something's wrong, you let somebody know it's wrong. Whether you think it's material or not, again, that's an opinion. Don't go there. Don't even question it. Remedies available to the injured party. Majority of courts take the position the injured party deceived by an innocent misrepresentation is entitled to rescind the contract but not to collect damages. Again, be careful about how you're carrying on with all this kind of stuff. You just don't want to go there. Damages. We can have compensatory damages that make the plaintiff whole. We have punitive damages that are awarded as punishment to the wrongdoer. Our contracts that we do in real estate are real easy to do compensatory damages because we have dollar values. So it's pretty easy for a judge or a court to issue a dollar value to do that. The punitive damages is the unknown. Most states' punitive damages will not be awarded unless the action is egregious, oppressive, and committed with ill will. So they're going to have to show you really intentionally did this wrong. Again, don't go there. Don't even get down that road. Negligent misrepresentation, supplying false information and failing to exercise reasonable care in obtaining or communicating it. Okay, that's why, again, is it my job as a realtor to know that sexual offender lives in the neighborhood? I heard about it. Not my job to know or disclose. It is my job to give you the information so you can go find out. If the house, we talked about this last night, stigmatized houses. Did somebody die in the house? You have to answer yes or no if you know. If you don't know, you try to help them find out. But again, it's a yes or no answer. That's all it has to be. You don't have to go into details. Waiver, intentional surrender of a known right or privilege. And that is it. I told you we would be done quickly. So, what did you know about fraud and misrepresentation?
Don't do it.
Don't do it, exactly. Don't go down that road. Don't do it. Don't do it. Let me get your papers
Just say
ready.
no.
Yeah.
If so you're making you're the seller representing the seller, and they tell you, I got to get out of here. My neighbor's crazy. I can't stand living next to my neighbor. Is that disclosable? I guess.
Well, okay, wait a minute.
If the buyer says, "How's your neighbor?" He says, "Well, he's a little goofy, but other than that."
The seller can say all they want. You're the realtor. You don't say any of that.
Yeah.
The seller can say all they want. And let them, you know.
What if you know there's some issue with the neighbor?
It's an opinion. I mean, you know the neighbor's a sexual predator. Do you have a history of that? Can you prove that?
Right.
But don't disclose it. Give them the information. But again, you have to give them information. But if you knew that material, if that was a material fact, if a family trying to move in, and you didn't disclose that, they might come and hit you on that. So what you would do is say, here's the information on sexual predators, here's the role, here's how you check this out. Don't get yourself in a position where you're affirming or denying. Give the information. Huh?
I saw all the first like 4 weeks still going, so I was like, it's dry. It's dry, but it's easy to suss out. Once you figure out the primary thing, it's easy to like these people do that stuff, though, and if you definitely have to talk to the paragraph behind what's actually now. Yeah. No, it definitely does do that. That's cool.
Yeah. Trust is not not report for everyone. It would be E possibly liable for fraud, leaks, and seals. Yeah, so it would be that. And I can tell you, neither one of those questions are on my list. What questions for next guy? Oh, and roll my test. If somebody misses everything, the entire question, everybody gets it. And I usually announce that right after somebody gets me a test and COVID is on. So that means that blows up all thing. But anyway, that's my whole approach. If everybody misses it, I can't count it wrong.
I live on
Judith,
so the person that has the and did you tell me about it?
she said, yeah, get out of here. Oh. Oh, I thought you were. No,
She called it,
So, thank you. Andrew, you want to get ready? Yeah. Tammy's back there. Tammy, I'm here. Yeah. Thank you. Excellent.
Thank you, you too.
Are we gonna present next week, too?
Thank
Joyce?
I'll lecture for half,
Okay.
or one chapter, half hour, and then you guys will do that, and then so 40 minutes, then you'll take the test. But I lecture first, because I'll have people that'll finish the test in 20 minutes, so they can go out here, other people will take an hour, or an hour and a half, so they can take as long as they want to take the test. Tammy, did you get your paper? Essie, your stuff right here.
Thank you.
Know the little guy? Because I can just let you know if I do a Google Doc.
No,
Email.
I don't have a Gmail, but I have Cincinnati State.
Okay.
That get a hold of me. Send me, whatever.
Laura, your stuff's here.
Yeah, I have your other one. 'Cause you brought, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can get you that way. That's fine.
What am I missing here?
Figure it out. Put it up there somewhere.
Thanks very much.
All right. Ashley.
Oh, on your,
Come on, my story was really good. You need to fix mine. I think
Yeah, I think you got your stuff too. I don't have any of your stuff here. I don't think.
I got it at the beginning of
Yep.
last year, but I want to make sure I was all
You're
covered
good.
for now.
Okay. All right. You guys done good.
Thank you.
yeah.
So my husband and I are commercial property,
Yes.
and we got approval.
What am I forgetting?
And still under, is it possible to purchase through an LLC?
Yeah, I would have.
And he said to transfer the property to a quick
The reason they don't want you to hold it as an LLC, because an LLC is considered a blind company. So by financing it, you're financing it personally, so they want you personally to be liable for the debt. And so that when you go to the closing, you're financing it as you guys, liable for the debt. Then you do an LLC later, so you're still liable for the debt. But you can do an LLC, but you would do an LLC financing, but you would still provide a personal guarantee. So you can set up the LLC, you could close in the name of the LLC, but the mortgage company would say, okay, guaranteed by you personally. So I just had an assignment happen. BG Enterprises owns a bunch of Five Guys down in Kentucky. They sold to this company called 737 Ventures. 737 Ventures was formed just to buy BG Enterprises stuff. So it's a shell company.
Right.
It's an LLC, it doesn't really exist. But the primary Smith, who owns the company, he could give us personal. So that's my landlord's going back and saying, I don't care about 737. I want personal guarantee from Smith.
So in terms of our liability,
The reason you want an LLC is if something happens on the property,
that
you don't want it to come back to your personal home, your
Right.
personal investment.
So it's fine if we have the lending under us and then we transfer the deed to an LLC.
But the insurance company, the other thing though is when you do an LLC ownership, insurance will be a little more expensive for an LLC than it will be for you individually.
Yeah, I
Because the
talked to
insurance
insurance-
knows that you're doing this shell thing.
Well, I talked to the insurance company the other day because, I've never owned a piece of commercial property, so I wasn't sure what that would be. And one of the first things he asked was, are you purchasing this as an LLC? And I said, well, I think that's what we'd like to do. He's like, yeah, that's what you should do. So, I mean, he just assumed that we would be purchasing it as an LLC. But,
No, the bank, like I
What-
said,
what
they can,
someone
you
else
can
said
still
that they
close
did-
as an LLC, but just go back to the bank and say, we still want to take title as an LLC. We want this to start from the very moment, but we want to give personal guarantees. At that point in time, the bank should be saying, okay, we've got a way to
I was
work
gonna
with you.
say, won't I have to pay fees to do another transfer?
You could, well, not really.
It
Setting
won't
up
be that-
a couple $100 fees of legal to transfer is what you're doing.
So what someone else told us that they did was they purchased it personally because, I guess the financing that they were working with, you had to have like enormous sums of money to back you up as an LLC. If you wanted to purchase as an LLC.
See,
So they
because
didn't
once
do
you own
that.
properties in LLC, you can keep stretching. You can wrap mortgages, you can do all kinds of things as that LLC, because that LLC all of a sudden is going to have value. But the day you go to buy the properties in LLC, you have nothing. All you have is a piece of paper. Now, once you've held the properties in LLC, the LLC now has the value of the property, but the day you close, it only has the equity. But if you finance the whole thing, there's no equity.
Yeah.
But eventually, the LLC also owns the bank account and the stuff that's associated with the property. So that over time, the LLC is building up its assets.
So these people, what they did was they personally purchased the property and then they leased it to an LLC that they had formed as like the managing company of the property. And then the units are leased from that LLC.
The LLC is the landlord leasing it out.
Right.
But they still have personal interest. And that's not going to totally remove them. The whole idea behind the LLC is to take away your personal responsibility.
Right. So,
Now, do you have an attorney?
no.
And where's this property? What are you trying to buy?
It's in College Hill. It's so we can't afford much, so it's a very small property.
But you're starting.
Yeah.
You gotta start somewhere.
And there's actually two buildings on the property. The front building has a storefront and then a one-bedroom apartment
Okay.
in the back. And then the other building is more like warehousey. So our intent is to rent out the storefront and the apartment and use the second floor of the warehouse for an art studio for us, and then possibly rent out a couple art studios on the lower floor.
Okay, so as industrial, you can split it and just put walls up basically to make art studio.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I mean, we would only probably have 2 studios rented out, and then we would take the second floor, I think. But yeah, so, but I mean, it sounds like even if we purchase through an LLC, like we would still be, either way.
It'll cost you
we're
$1,200 or so to do the paperwork to form the LLC.
Hmm.
But you should still, how close are you to buying this?
We saw the property once, but the listing agent didn't arrange for us to see the apartment. And because of that, we also couldn't see the basement because you access it through the apartment. So we're going back Friday to see those spaces. And then we kind of want to make a decision.
But you need to, before Friday, try to have an attorney. Try to find an attorney. Just talk through this with an attorney first. And then he can tell you the whole thing about taking it personally for a day, doing the LLC transfer. You still have to set up an LLC takes time to set up.
Mhm.
But that time, that window, you own it personally. If anything happens, you could be liable. But again, would anything happen in a week or two? Probably not as well. You're renting while things are going on.
Mhm.
Is it partially occupied or is it empty now?
There is a renter in the apartment,
Okay.
and we haven't seen the apartments. We don't know what condition it's in, and they're month to month. So it's my understanding that we could request it vacated if we wanted.
Give them 30 days
Yeah.
notice.
But I'd kind of like to have income coming in
Yes.
immediately. So as long as he's a good tenant, and I have a feeling he's been there for a while because the listing agent said there was in the property next door, there was like a 3 or 4 car garage in the back, and the listing agent said that the tenant is renting that garage property and does like car repair and stuff.
Okay.
So it seems like he's kind of set up, that he's probably been there for a while and stuff.
Yeah, does not want to move.
Right. So as long as it seems like everything's kosher, I think it would probably be beneficial for us, at least for now,
To keep in place,
to
sure.
keep them.
But you should definitely talk through this with an attorney. Before you go too far down the road, before you start making offers, know how you're going to offer it. Are you going to offer it as the LLC or are you going to offer it individually? When you actually go to make the offer.
Mhm.
The bank's telling you one thing, but if you call the bank back and say, hey, we'll do personal guarantees, but we still want to take title as an LLC, ask them that.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. Yeah, I was like, maybe Joyce knows something.
I would, but definitely get an attorney involved, so that they can walk through all this with you. Because they may say, oh, for a month or two, there's not much you're gonna lose. But again, if something happens to the property, you've got to have, to go to the closing, you're gonna need insurance in place. You're gonna have to get, you're getting a mortgage, you're doing all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But if you got to spend more to go ahead and do a quick claim deed to deed and all the other crap, why do that again? Why not just title it to you and just do a personal guarantee?
Mhm. Okay.
So that would be the first question of the bank. They know who you are.
Mhm.
You've done everything you have to do.
Yeah, and actually, I got my home mortgage through this lender. I've worked with them before. Okay.
Yeah, I would, but definitely get an attorney involved sooner than
What
later.
would be the best way to go about getting an insurance?
And
And is that gonna make me go broke before I even?
an attorney should be a few $100 to sit down and talk to them about this
Okay.
process and to have them advise you.
Mhm.
Where do you work now?
Where do I work?
Yeah,
Johnson House Architects.
but I'm just wondering, the people you work with, do they know attorneys? Real estate attorneys? That would be my first thought. Can they give you a referral for a real estate attorney? because they run across it in the business.
Yeah.
And you're talking small time. You don't want an attorney that's $800 an hour.
Right, yeah.
You're trying to get an attorney that can do it doesn't have to be the partner. It can be not the paralegal, but somebody that's new in the firm, just to give you the information you need.
Okay.
But that's where I would, now what about your husband? Where's he work?
He's self-employed.
Okay, but, so I'm just trying to think, where can you go for resources to ask these questions is where I'm trying to go to.
Yeah.
You
I know a couple lawyers, but they're not real estate specific.
But you can ask them to give you real estate reference.
Yeah.
You definitely want somebody that's a real estate attorney, not a general practice.
Yeah.
It's not, we're not going to the doctor, it's a specialty,
Right, yeah.